Find and learn from people who lived it wherever you get podcasts. Search it using all one word. Learn from people who lived it.
Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
Well, I am super jacked for today's episode, and let me explain why. Those of you who know me know that I spent about 30 years on the radio, and every now and again you'd find this new band and this incredible song, and you'd go, oh my God, these guys are so good. And you'd be like, they have more? Wait, they've already got 7 albums out? How am I just discovering these people? And that is my direct segue to Ken Honda today, because that's how I feel about him. I have just come to learn about Ken recently, and it was one of those things where the moment I dove into his projects and his passion, I was like, where has this dude been all my life? This guy's a hit single. And then I dive in, and there's even more depth. There's even more books. There's even more courses. And it's just awesome, man. And so, Ken, that's a really long way to welcome you to a podcast, but how are you?
Thank you so much, Matthew. It's such a great pleasure to be on your show. I just flew back from the United States, so I still feel like I'm in the United States.
Yeah. And I understand you were in Vail, Colorado, so we were pretty close to the same time zone. So at the time of this recording, for me, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. What time is it for you?
It's 7:00 in the morning, your future.
Future morning. Okay. What city do you live in?
I'm right now in Tokyo, and I will be going back to another house, which is about a couple of hours from here. That's in like a place like Vail.
Okay.
And there I have a retreat center where I have thousands of books stored. So I'll be, devouring my books that I haven't read for a while. So
Love it.
I have a stack of books.
Ken is what they call the money guy, man, the happy money guy, to be honest. They call him the money healer. They call him the Zen millionaire. He's got a book out, and I'll throw it up on the screen here in just a little bit, but it's called The Happy Money, the Japanese art of making peace with your money. And one of the things that I'm really excited to talk to you about today is something that you talk an awful lot about, which is the scarcity mindset. And then also this idea of forgiving and healing our money wounds. And so I want to get to those topics, and I want to spend a lot of time talking about those topics. But the first question that I want to ask you officially is, can you take me back to that playground episode that you talk about from time to time, where you were there with your daughter and you witnessed another mom and daughter having a fight? And that moment is the moment that projected you into this place you are right now. And so I think it's a great idea to start there. Do you mind sharing it?
Yeah. In English, I'm learning English, so you have to say, no, I don't mind, right? It's a tricky question.
Tricky
Yes,
question.
I don't mind. I love to speak on that. Okay. So it's almost like 20 some years ago, because my daughter is 26 now. And when she was about 3 or 4 at the time, our favorite day is to spend all day in the park. We just made a little picnic lunchbox together. Sometimes, I think at the time, my wife was probably went to a beauty salon to cut her hair or something. So my daughter, small, and me were enjoying our time in the park. So while we're having a little snack on a bench, there is this mom and daughter came rushed to the swing, and we were kind of watching them as we can eat something. And they were just swinging in and out for like a couple minutes. And then the mother said, okay, it's time to go. And the little daughter said, Mom, we just got here. I want to do more. And but she said, she was kind of looking at her watch and said, we got to go because your mom has to work. And then she felt, she seems very frustrated. And then she was violently just taking her daughter off of a swing, and she was dragging her out of the park, and the little girl was crying, and I was so shocked. It's a perfect timing, that time of the day, and I'm sure they wanted to spend more time, but because of work. Why? Because she needs to bring food on the table and so to do that she has to work. So she'll be put in a daycare or something, and then she'll be spending her time alone. And suddenly it really hit me. It's because they don't know. She doesn't know about money, so she cannot enjoy life. If she knew more about money and if she sort out money issues, she could have spent time, beautiful time, with her daughter, and I'm sure she wanted to do that. And then I got inspired. I got inspired to write something on happiness and money and investment, so you can be free from money. By the time I was retired for 3 years, I took my time off from my accounting consulting work for 4 years. I retired at age 29 after making all the money successfully in my 20s. And so, and that little thing just inspired me to write. I started writing about that, and my friends loved my essay. I sort of self-published my booklets, and I distributed so much I gave away. And then the publisher called me, and the rest is history. I've sold almost 9 million copies of my books, and I have about 100 some books in the shelf.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a story, man. And it's so interesting. And I'm going to throw these books up. They're going to be just to the left or the right of him, depending on how you're looking at here on
Yes, there are
YouTube.
only there are only 2 books in English, but I have
Yeah,
a lot.
that's all
Yes.
right. But they're both worth your time and they're both worth your while. And you can find
Mhm.
both of them on Amazon. At least that's where
Mhm.
I saw them. Okay, so let's dump into this, man, because the story you just declared
Yeah.
is 90% of people's lives. Their
Mm,
their jobs rule their roost,
right.
and they control when and how things are going to happen for their families. And I just, one of the things that I imagine, and I know you run into this all of the time, so that's why I want to bring it up, but how do you deal with the folks who are, what do you say to the folks who are like, well, that's how it is. Like, I have to go to work. I have to make my living. I don't have a choice. This is
Mhm.
what it means for me. What do you say to that when you hear that?
That's where you are. That doesn't mean that that's where you have to be for the rest of
Okay.
your life.
I like it.
So, like, if you're a single man, and then if you're young, uh, you don't have to stay single for the rest of your life. You can choose to meet somebody and get married, and you choose to stay single, and like that, and you choose to have a great life. You choose to have a boring life. You choose to have a life of suffering. It's up to you. Nobody forces you to have suffering around money. It's just your low money EQ, money low IQ. If both of them are low, you end up being in the gutter. And especially, unfortunately, in the world, life is made that way. And especially, I feel sorry for American people, because your society is not really well built for the middle class and also the people who don't have much resources.
True. True.
But it's just how the country is made. In like in Denmark, if you're a college student, the college's tuition is free. Can you believe that, American parents? And on top of that, you get about 800 euros, which is about $800 or more, for books and entertaining, so you can focus on learning. You don't have to take like bartender job and stuff. You can concentrate on your studies. So if you're born American, you have to pay thousands of dollars for college, right? And if you're born in Denmark, that's what they get. So yes, life is not fair in that sense. But I think we are equal. The distance between us and happiness is equal. Even if you're born in Denmark, some people choose not to take advantage of free or education that you get paid, for the next 4 years.
Right.
And also, there are you may be born in America, but if you do things right, you can still get the college education, through scholarship and whatnot, and then you can create a beautiful life. And also the same thing if you're born in Africa, India, or Japan, uh, the same thing. So the distance, even though our life is not fair, that's the fact. But the distance between you and the happiness is the same. So that's very interesting about life.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, and puts me in a little bit of a vulnerable space, but I think this is really going to be a healthy conversation,
Hmm.
is, I grew up here in a state called Minnesota, in a small town called Coon Rapids. And it was a real blue collar town in the 70s and 80s. And, most of the folks that we were around were, Vietnam veterans and labor workers. And, it was just kind of like a labor force kind of a town, small town.
Hmm.
And, we grew up so poor. Like we never had money. It was always no. Can I have this? No. Can we do this? No. It was just constantly that, right? And I have tried to, over the years, do some work to unwire some of that stuff
Hmm.
myself.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I'm nervous about is that I'm going to pass that stuff down to my own kids. And that's the space where I think as parents, we really owe it to our next generation
Hmm.
to work on healing some of these generational money wounds that millions and millions of people have. And so I don't even know what the question is, but Ken, how do we start this conversation of forgiving and healing money wounds?
Thank you. And this is a deeper, question than you think, because, um, your money wounds. Everybody has that. I do, and I think Matthew, you have that too. As long as we're human, we have that. But it's why? It's because our parents were messed up.
Mhm.
I haven't met so many people whose parents are great. Actually there are some, but 99% of us were pretty messed up. Why? Because our parents were messed up too. So that's our grandparents' fault, right? Why
Yes,
their grandparents are messed up? Because there was war, earthquake, there's a disaster, and sometimes like a riot, revolution, in Europe and Russia and other countries. So our grandparents messed up our grandparents, and then the grandparents said, "Take this," and then our parents took it, and then what we're doing is like take this to our kids. So how much percentage do you want to cleanse it, heal it, and then pass it on to our next generation? My daughter complained about, "Daddy, like you pass down so many bad stuff to me." And I said to her, "Yeah, sorry about that, but that's life, and take it." And then, but you haven't met your grandfather. If you look at your grandfather, you know how much dirt and toxin I just cleanse with my body, and then give it to you. Even though it's not as perfect and pure, but look how much job, how much I've done for you. So your job is to just clean it, heal it, and then make it as clean as possible, and then you can pass it to your next generation. But certain toxin, certain bad stuff make you strong too. So if you just bring up your child germ free or pain free, they're going to suffer too. So
yes.
like I think certain toxin is good for your immune system.
Fair enough. Well, we have a little bit of time, and I would love to dive into this a little bit. And so, specifically, how do you counsel some people to start that process of, because I want to get into the weeds a little bit and understand, what does that look like at the grocery store? What does that look like for my credit card bills? What does that look like for my savings account? What does that look like for all of these different areas? How
Mhm.
do I chip away at that problem?
Right. So no, there are two big money problems in life. One
Okay.
is we're making too little,
Uh-huh.
and the other is we are spending too much.
Okay.
So if you're struggling with money, I'm sure you have both problems. If you're making a few $1,000s in America, that's not good enough, unfortunately, because of the high rate, raise of um, rising prices of food and gas and
For
mortgage,
sure.
or
Right.
or rent. So you need to make more. And on the other side, you need to spend less. So I realize that especially American people love shopping. There are so many shopping malls, and then uh, during the daytime, there are not many Japanese people during the daytime because they're working. And in America, there are a lot of people on the shopping mall. And I was surprised. And then I realized that they take a day off for shopping, right? And shopping becomes such a great part of entertainment. If you just do the entertainment like sports, cycling, like many people in Europe, I think American people will be smarter and also more abundant. So it's cultural thing. Like in America, people don't realize how much brainwashing you receive through media, and
Yeah.
uh, and that's very cultural thing. And it's not only in America that we are almost threatened you should spend more. Otherwise, you're going to be happy. That's a bottom line message. But think about it. Do we need three iPhones? Do we need four houses? Do we need more shoes? Do we need more and more? I think in terms of happiness, we can satisfy our life with what we got. And we need only, I have only one pair of shoes, sneakers, and I have two pairs of nice shoes. But I don't have so many others. So you can be completely satisfied with what you got. And so there's this hunger and thirst among all of us. And unless we kind of satisfy ourselves with that part of life, we keep spending money on dollar shop. I've witnessed looking like a financially challenged people or they're there with a family of like six or seven, and then they're just putting all the garbages into this big cart in a dollar shop, which they may not necessarily use. So the mantra I always give people is this: if I don't buy this tomorrow, if I don't buy this today, am I going to die tomorrow? And I repeat, if I don't buy this today, am I going to die tomorrow? Probably not. If you're not going to die tomorrow, that's something that you don't need to buy today. So,
So yeah, go ahead.
oh, please.
I was going to say, so what I think what it boils down to is if there is a step one, it's to become aware first of like, do I have these issues?
Hmm.
Do I have a problem? Am I not making enough money, and am I spending more money than I'm making? Okay, so I become aware of that, and everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, of course, that's the problem. That's what I'm dealing with right now. And then so the next step in your story is gratitude, is to
Hmm.
basically look at your life and say, okay, yeah, I may not have all the things that I want one day, but do I have enough to be happy in this moment? And um, I think that that sounds like a great thing to say, but if you're living in a shitty apartment and you're in a crappy part of town and it's loud and it's violent or whatever's going on, you can understand why people would be like, hey man, I'm not grateful for this place that I'm in, and it's hard for me to live in this place. And so I I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm answering my own question here, but I guess then you just have to keep going down the gratitude train of like, well, you're alive, you have a roof, you've got these
Hmm.
things going for you. But it's hard for folks to find gratitude that are in a really tough situation. And I understand why they're there, but I
Uh-huh.
just want to help them get out of it.
Hmm. The good news is that you're not the only one. I talk with a lot of entrepreneurs who are very, very successful. They're also feeling ungrateful about their life. They're
Yes.
maybe making $500,000 a year, but all their friends seem to be making more. So instead of just flying first class, their friends have a private jets. So they feel so miserable in a big house. So
Yeah.
that miserable feeling is as bad as you feel about your neighborhood or city apartment, because they think their friends have a better life. So it's the same, I don't know if it's good news or bad news. So even if you get out of this situation where you are, and then become very successful and you have all the money in the world and have millions of dollars in the bank account, but you're still feeling like a garbage. So
Yes.
unless you deal with your own feeling, it's the same if you're living in a terrible apartment or like 20 room mansions, because it's in you. So unless you heal it, it's the same thing. So I hope this is not only the bad news, but the good news,
Yeah.
because that's where you are.
Yeah, I love your answer. I mean, I always tell people at the height of my career in radio and television, when everything on paper looked like it should have been jackpot, I
Hmm.
was more miserable than I'd ever been in my entire life. And so I can almost assure people that the way you feel about yourself and your situation has almost nothing to do with bigger houses and more expensive cars and more vacations. And, like, I don't think that stuff's totally what matters. So with regards to money specifically, what are examples of money trauma? Because I think that's what we can help people understand. It's, that first step is awareness. Like, oh my
Hmm.
God, I have an issue. So what kinds of money traumas are there?
So I used to remember, I used to want mountain bike for like little grown-ups. Like I was 8 or 9 at the time, and I wanted to have a big bike for like kids in their like high teens, like 15s and 16s. So and my father and my parents said that's too expensive for you. And then they were kind of right. It's not expensive. It's too early for me anyway, because I got big cuts over here with a bike accident, a year later with a smaller one. So if I had a bigger one, I'll be probably dead by now
Oh
because I
man.
was a very adventurous kid. But at the time, I was so hurt. Well, I'm not worthy of getting an expensive bike. So my parents didn't like me, and I'm sure you have been denied for your soccer lessons or a music instrument or vacation or summer camps because of money. And then you feel like unworthy. Whatever you want is not coming. So later on, when you want to change your jobs, when you want to be on your own, start your own business, and then you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. It's just old pattern, old pain is coming up. Like you didn't get a bike. Do you think you dare think that you can start your own business and become successful? Just it's not happening. So that kind of self-talk is happening in your head that really limits your life opportunities. So you have to first figure out why did you get denied by your parents. Is that because you are not lovable? Is that because you're terrible? Or is just simply because your parents didn't have money? And if your parents had emotional intelligence, they could have told you, I'm so sorry, we don't have the money, it's nothing to do with you, blame on me, I'm so sorry, forgive me, I feel so ashamed as a parent that I cannot give you anything. That would be a great thing that parents could say. But instead, one of my students, she's a girl and who's a little bit overweight, and then she wanted to learn ballet. And what her father said is like, "Hey, ugly little chicken, you're not suited for ballet. If you want to learn ballet, you have to be born beautiful or cute, and then you have to have thin legs." So since then, that that was a big shock for her. So she started thinking that she's ugly. She's not. She doesn't have good body for anything, and so her self image was low. So if it's just the money, we can take it. Kids are very forgivable. Kids forgive their parents very easily. But if your trauma gets tied into your self value, self worth, then it's toxic. So as a parent, you have to really just make sure that it's not kids' fault; it's our fault that we cannot provide money. But parents cannot take the guilt and shame for not providing the right thing for their kids. It's a shameful thing. But instead of feeling the shame and guilt, we just kind of make it our kids' fault. So, can you understand? The first step is, can you understand what happened to you? You have nothing to do with it. It's your parents' side fault. And then, can you forgive them? Because they're younger than you, probably. They're in their 20s and 30s. They had no knowledge about life and money and work, so they're as confused, as lost as you are, or maybe more when they're younger. So can you forgive these young people who didn't know much, who couldn't deal with the emotions? And if you can forgive them, you can forgive and you can accept your child. Like you can do a family group hug, and by hugging your family, your young parents, and you can invite your brothers and sisters, you can feel more whole. And after doing that a couple of times, you feel more courageous. You can feel that you can do anything because you can. So don't let your money traumas in the past drag you down, because that's a shame and also unfortunate that you stop following your dreams. We're born to do it, that to do things that we are born to follow our hearts.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of things happen, and then we stop following our dreams.
So here's a question for you then. All right. So then we're talking about all these different kinds of trauma. And you're right. That's a pretty common theme with almost every family. And even if you can provide for your kids, like doesn't mean you always should, right? They have to learn that those types of values too. That's probably important. So I think where I'd like to segue us next is to the thing that we talk about called the scarcity mindset.
Hmm.
Um, if you don't mind, give me like a low, or let me put it like this: give me an easy to understand definition of a scarcity mindset, and then let me ask my second question. So, what's your definition of a scarcity mindset first?
So scarcity mindset tells you there's not enough, and if you take it, somebody else needs to take less. So in other words, there's zero sum society where somebody takes it, you take less. So that is a scarcity mindset. And also, if you want to start your own business, if you write a book, nobody's going to read it. So that's a sad feeling that all of us have.
And you would put that second example in as a scarcity mindset too, that you think nobody's going to read it. So that's like,
Yeah,
yeah, okay,
because there are so many books in the bookstore or
right.
in Amazon, and I feel so unworthy when I go to a bookstore because there are thousands of books. Who's going to pick my book out of
Right.
like thousands, right?
Right. So here's the question, and I mean this to be a little punchy. So, what's the difference, or where's the line? That's a better way to put this question. Where's the line between like I'm going to unravel that scarcity mindset and stupidity? Like,
Hmm.
because you can understand where somebody just goes, they go all in. They go, you know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna step into abundance, and then they just start going crazy, and they start doing this and that, and the next thing, and then the next thing they know, man, woo, maybe it didn't go as planned or something like. So, what is that thin line between I'm gonna shed this snake skin of the scarcity mindset, and but I'm not gonna be stupid about it.
Hmm. So I think you have to be realistic. At the
Okay.
same time, you can be generous and giving.
Okay.
So I studied this experiment of giving away my booklets. I started giving away my 100 and also 200, 300, and 1,000 and 2,000. And I ended up giving about 100,000 copies. A publisher called me, and the rest is a history because my first book went so successful. So I got all the money back. So I just did this experiment of just giving all the way through. So I ended up giving away 2.3 million um, free booklets, physical, and that cost me about 3 million US dollars for a gift. So, I read in the books that whatever you give come back in multiple times. Is that true? So I wanted to do that. And look what happened after 22 years. I sold about 9 million copies, which translates into about $13 million. So do the math. So 13 minus 3 is like I got $10 million more. So it's true that whatever you give away will come back to you. But you have to do it in a way elegantly and boldlessly and selflessly. Otherwise, um, think about it, that if I just put my booklets into all the post, book mailboxes into that I can find, I don't think it happened. I gave to those who want to read. So that's the key. So if you give whatever you have to the people who really appreciate you, in other words, you have to find your own tribe. You have to find your own tribe who just appreciates you and also who loves you. And if you can find those, and then your work is appreciated. Like my podcast just hit 53 million downloads in a country of 130 million. So it's almost like half the country have listened to me. So people can recognize my voice more than my face. So in the elevator, and I said, which floor? And all like 10 people, it's a big elevator, just recognize my voice. Like, are you
Yeah.
Ken? So, so it's because of that, I have given away so much. That's why I have received so much money, not only through books, because book royalties is only a portion of what I make. I do online courses, books, big seminars. I talk to thousands of people. My online seminar goes up to 9,000 people as audience, paid audience. So
Wow.
that's the popularity goes up once I give more. So if you just give with your big heart and also with with your intelligence, you will do well because people love you, and that is the opposite of scarcity mentality. When I publish my books, I'm sure they're gonna love it. So that's the feeling. Or like even though when I publish my book, nobody's gonna read it. That's scarcity mindset.
All right. So here's a question. Then let's get into even more weeds with regards to money. So I know you have kids. I have kids. I've got an 18-year-old son and a 16-year-old son.
All right.
So, and I know that it's like, there's different advice at different stages of life. But
Right.
what would you like? Would be kind of fun to kick around. Like, what would you say to, 18-year-old Ken? What would you say to like 28-year-old Ken? What would you want 38-year-old Ken to know? Like, let's rewind the tape. And so, what's important for an 18-year-old right now to understand about money?
You have great questions, Matthew. That is the best questions I heard this year.
Ah,
The first year, half of the year,
yeah,
you
I'll
get
take
the
it.
award.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
a great question. Okay, so for the 18-year-old, don't think about saving. Just investing, meeting people.
Yes. Okay. What about 28?
28. But that's when I started just retiring. So I had all the money in the world, and from myself, a little money, but at the time that was big. So uh $1 million is not just a big money. So because you're gonna get a lot more. So be open to dream big because you're bigger than you think.
Okay. I really like that advice because I think that's an age where you're stepping into a part of your career
Mm,
where, it's it's starting to kind of ramp up a little bit. You
mm,
you are meeting a lot new people. You're going through life experiences like having children, seemingly around that age, give or take a few years. And so you're meeting new people. And I would agree with you. I think your late 20s, early 30s, a great opportunity to just network with as many people that are like-minded and see the world you do. Okay, now they're 40. Now they got, let's just play stereotypes here. They've got kids, they've got a
mm,
house, their kids are going to school,
mm.
mom and dad are working, maybe they're not, I don't know, but what's the advice for somebody in their 40s?
So 40s, I think probably that's when you feel like you're not young anymore. You're getting, you're feeling like you're getting old. But at the same time, you're so young. So
Yeah.
you're the youngest and oldest at the same time. You're youngest when you think of life starting from now, near the oldest when you think back. So, like, if you're 38, like, oh, well, I can move, as fast, and then somewhere like my back pain and here it hurts. But you're still very young. You can do anything. So just regret as if you were in your 70s. I wish I had done this when I was 38. So
Mm.
let's start listing.
That's really cool. I've never heard it put like that, but I really like that. Like, imagine your future self looking back at the tape and going, man, I wish I would have done that. Like, you're right. Live your life so you don't have to have those regrets later in
Right.
life. Yeah. All right. Let's just go one more decade and then we'll squash this part of the conversation. Now I'm in my 50s. So now my kids are, they're getting to an age where college is starting to come into play. And there's some of that stuff there. So
Yeah.
now what's the advice in the 50s?
So you're living in an empty nest, and some part of you feels like your life is ending, but you know your parenting just is ending. It's not your life.
Yeah.
So for think about it, because you're free from just financing kids for kids, and you can do anything. So you have this freedom to do whatever you want for your life. Finally, after 20s and 30s and 40s, you have to provide for families, and you have to do so many things as a career in your career. So focus on what's possible for your life, because you can do anything in your life. So that's when, and also you could be more stressed out in that sense, because you're a parent. You may have aging parents, and they're about to go. So the baton of life is passed down to you. So just do whatever you want. And the 50s, you can do anything. And in the 60s, you may have cancer, and you may just experience some fatal diseases. So in your 50s is the last decade of your freedom.
Okay, fair enough, man. I mean, now people are living longer and longer and longer, but you're right. Still, if you look at the numbers, like by the time people get into their 60s, like some of them are really challenged with
Right.
disease and other things.
And also there is this called health longevity is a word in
Yes.
Japanese that means that how can you stay healthy? And the average, I think, in North America is somewhere like 72, or I read somewhere. That means that if you're 68, you can be kind of still up and running. But if you're 72, I get sick, so I cannot think of flying to Japan. It's like 9 hours or 10 hours. So I realized that. When you just hit 70s, international travel is harder. So that's why this year I've been traveling around the world 3 times already. And it's okay. I feel a little tired today, but after going, I traveled around the world in 2 weeks this time, but it's okay. So because I'm in my 50s, but if you just hit your 60s and 70s, that's harder. So I think I can still climb out the Mount Everest if I just get the right training. I'm not going to do that. But if you're in the 60s and 70s, you cannot. So
Yeah.
do the things that you want to do while you can move around.
All right. Here's a great place to kind of wrap up and wind down our conversation is around this idea of discovering your gifts, figuring
Mhm.
out what it is that you're good at. Like, that's the thing. Like, what am I really good at? What am I going to give to this world that's going to mean something for them? It's going to mean something for me and for
Mhm.
my family. And I would imagine, the first question that a lot of people have is this idea of like, well, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't, I've just always had a job. I'm an accountant, so maybe I'm good at with numbers. And so how do you help people discover what they're good at? What kinds of questions do you ask them to help them figure it out?
Yes. And for example, if you can do things very naturally and other people cannot, like you just write so fast, you cook so fast, and you do it without even thinking. That's the kind of thing that you can focus on as your life mission or life work,
Yeah.
that I call it. So if you just find yourself writing, if you just find yourself speaking, consulting, listening, those are the skills that you should use more. So if you are good at speaking, you should become a speaker. If you're good at listener, you could be a coach. I have trained top salespeople, and there are two kinds. One who are very good at speaking, the other who are good at listening. they're super good at listening to their clients' needs, so their clients feel they're heard. So both of them can make a top salesperson. So find what you're good at, and then find something that people say always praise for. Matthew, you are such a good listener. Matthew, you ask great questions, and people find valuable things in what you do, and you do it so naturally, so you don't notice it. But it's outstanding from other people. So if you can focus, for me, writing and speaking, and also like consulting with other life issues, that's why my podcast program is one of the most popular, because I give people great insights. I ask people from a very different angles that they never thought in years. So the biggest compliments or the comments I always get is, Ken, I never thought about my life this way.
Yes.
That's my expertise. So I get so much money by asking people right questions through my books and through my seminars and lectures. So my gift is ask the right questions. And I think, Matthew, I feel like you're my brother.
Yeah.
We share the same gifts together.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very
Yeah,
nice to hear. Thank you very
definitely.
much.
Yeah.
Well,
So yeah, that's amazing. I really appreciate that.
Well, and this is such a great conversation because you put things in such an easy way to understand. I love that. It's like, what are those effortless things that you do? What's the thing that you do where time isn't even thought of? You just kind of like, whoa, it was 6 hours ago, and I'm already, those are the kinds of things that I think folks have to kind of really drill down and figure out. Then how can I turn that into a revenue stream for me? And it's probably important to note, or maybe I'm wrong about this. This is an interesting question. Are there certain things that people are good at that just nobody's going to pay anything for?
Actually, what's interesting is that people just do weird things, and then other people love it. Like
You're right.
one of my friend who is a singer, she wanted to sing internationally, but she realized that she's not good with language.
Mm.
So she cannot speak, she cannot sing in Chinese, English, and French and Portuguese. And if you're singing only in Japanese, nobody listens, right?
Okay.
So she came up with a bizarre idea, which I kind of helped. So she started humming. So anybody can hum, right? No words. And then he came up with this. She came up with this idea for humming for peace. And she's just started with only herself and then her friend, so two of them. And look what she's gonna get. She's gonna start singing in Hiroshima, for the Memorial Day. Well, she's gonna
Wow,
get.
man, look at that.
She's gonna sing to like 5,000 people, and then it's a like event that she doesn't have to do. It's a Hiroshima city event, and then she's invited to do that. It's humming, right?
It's a great story, man. Way to
Right.
bring that home.
So, like, do you think like humming, you can make a living? She does. She does.
Right.
She does a humming workshop. All we do is hum together, and it's so fun. And anybody can hum, like,
Yeah.
and also if you are out of tune a little bit, you're okay because there are so many others humming together. So you kind of blend it in. So if it's a regular song, you just stand out, and you don't. I've met so many people who say, I have a terrible voice. I don't
Yeah.
sing. But if you can hum, I mean, anybody can do humming. So it really frees people's spirit, and then free from guilt, shame, and embarrassment. So I'll give you one example. That do
That's
you like?
perfect. Yes, I love that example because number one, it's exactly what I was kind of talking about. It's like
Mhm.
you're sitting in there and people are like, well, you're a good hummer. And people are like, well, what am I going to do with that? But you just showed us what you're going to do with that. So, man, I
Right.
know that one of your pillars in your books is about saying thank you all the time. And so let
Mhm.
me just express my gratitude to you for coming on our podcast today and just sharing your wisdom with us. And I feel like I got a little lens into the catalog today of albums, albums that you've got. And I'm going to just take a deeper dive into everything that you're doing, because I'm in a headspace right now. And I think a lot of people are, where they're really interested in working on this stuff. And they're really, really interested in breaking the generational curses and cycles that have been in their families for a long time. And they definitely want to be more successful, especially here in America, for the reason you mentioned, which is it's so hard to be in the middle and lower class here because of how expensive everything is. And if you could just be in a point in your life where you didn't have to worry about those things, it is such a freeing space to be. And you get to play with your kids more. You get to be more present with the people that are important to you. You get to be the father you want to be to the kids that you're raising. And so you and I think we equally understand the importance of doing the work and figuring this thing out for yourself. But you've put things in a way today that I think helps our audience really understand this. And so sincerely, Ken, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and all the viewers and listeners. I'm just sending you my heart. I don't get paid for a lot of what I do, but this is my joy. This is my greatest reward. I always feel so appreciative for the people who've given opportunities. Today, that's you, Matthew, for opening doors for many people. I think you're so popular and loved. And I find it such an honor to meet somebody like you. And we need to have more people like you in the world. So thank you. I really appreciate, and I'm sending lots of happy money energy from Japan. I hope you received all of that.
I'll take it all, man. I'll take it all. The books are True Wealth and Happy Money. You can pick those up right now, and you can get your learn on with this guy, Ken Honda. All right, bud. Listen, to be continued. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Same thing. Great things will start happening to you.
Let's go. Let's go.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you very much for your